Alright, welcome guys. There is a really big piece via the Hollywood Reporter that actually breaks down some shocking things Amazon wanted to do with James Bond and by proxy will now go and do because they've got full creative control. Really dumb things like a Moneypenny spin-off. This has got shades of Sony wanting to do the Aunt May spin-off series. This is just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense and drivel. And now Jeff Bezos and Amazon Prime having creative control, yeah, crap. Which, funnily enough, it goes to show how much of an ego Jeff is, because the only reason he wanted to buy it, right? The only reason he wanted to buy it, and for the price that he paid, was when he found out that Barbara Broccoli said that basically Amazon Prime were awful to work with, basically, and just terrible people. He was like, I don't care what it takes, just buy it, just pay him whatever money, it doesn't matter, just pay him anything and we'll get it, because he had his ego bruised. Mental. Anyway, so we're going to dive into this. It's an interesting piece, and it's titled License to Shill Inside Amazon's 007 Takeover. There's a lot in there, so buckle up, settle in. We're going to take a look at this. Hit subscribe if you're new here. And let's dive into it, shall we? Yeah. It's the Bond movie's most shocking plot twist in decades. But will the tech giant surprise buyout of the franchise prove deadly? Yeah, it will. Again, based on what they wanted to do. Yeah, it absolutely will. So when it comes to cringy musical tributes, nobody does it better than the Oscars. And while that chorus line of Tuxedo 007 pirouetting around the stage during the Academy's James Bond extravaganza wasn't quite as jaw-droppingly awkward as some previous song and dance fiascos, at least Rob Lowe didn't turn up to tango with Snow White. There was one but small uncomfortable moment you might have missed, and that'd be when the camera panned into the audience to Bond producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. So they had this like big tribute to 007 at the Oscars, and then they panned to Barbara Broccoli and Wilson. Yeah. Wasn't good. Their faces, yeah, wasn't good. So the whole reason the Academy decided to devote 6 full minutes of the ceremony to Bond music was that Broccoli and Wilson were the recipients of this year's honorary Irving G. Thalberg Oscar, an accolade bestowed upon them in November at the Governor's Awards to celebrate the half-siblings' 30 years of unwavering stewardship, not anymore, over the spy franchise they inherited in 95 from their father. And that's from Albert Cubby Broccoli. Quote, let me tell you, they don't just produce Bond movies. One-time Bond girl Halle Berry gushed about Broccoli and Wilson in an introduction from the podium. They were the heart and soul of this franchise for decades. And now they've got no soul because they've sold it on. Anyway, so yeah, days before the ceremony, Broccoli and Wilson announced that they were selling Bond to Amazon. Oh. It was a bombshell development that caught much of Hollywood, including clearly Oscar's musical producers, by surprise. What could have compelled them to do it? After so many years of fiercely protecting their father's business, Eon Productions, the company that's been in charge of 007 since the character first swaggered onto the screen in '62, why would they decide to unload it? And to Amazon, no less. The sprawling global syndicate run by the bald-headed, rocket-building billionaire Ernst Stavro Bezos. It makes even less sense than the plot of No Time to Die. This is a great article, guys. It really is. So more pointedly, what does the sale mean for Bond's future? Right, okay. So Bond's longtime home in MGM in 2022 for 8.5 billion, right? Amazon bought MGM for 8.5 billion. And that was obviously where Bond was at that point in time. And mostly it was to get its hands on 007 IP and build it into a Marvel-style universe filled with bingeable TV spin-offs. That's what they wanted. That's why they paid $8.5 billion for it. So they only bought MGM because they wanted 007. The only thing stopping them were Broccoli and Wilson, who had very different ideas for their father's legacy, as well as a decades-long deal with MGM guaranteeing them creative dominion over all things Bond. But now that they're out of the picture, Amazon can do whatever it wants. A TV show about Moneypenny? Why not? A prequel about Blofeld's teenage years. See where we're going with this? Amazon Prime's ideas were dog shit. Sure. More 007 game shows? Please no. But anything's possible. Amazon's now free to milk the franchise dry. Yes, they are. And they are going to. So. Cubby Broccoli once said, don't let anybody screw it up. You can screw it up if you want to, but don't let other people screw it up. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. For Barbara and Michael, it's always been franchise first, as one Bond insider. Nothing else got in the way. When they took it over in the mid-90s, the franchise was in critical condition. Timothy Dalton's 2 Bond films, The Living Daylights and License to Kill, had bombed. Cubby Broccoli, the man who had, with partner Harry Saltzman, ushered 007 onto the big screen in the 60s, was dying of heart disease after triple bypass surgery. At the time, there was a doubt that another Bond movie would ever get made, but Broccoli and Wilson managed to squeeze $60 million out of the studio to produce GoldenEye, which ended up grossing $356 million worldwide. And then it went on to do... GoldenEye was great. It did loads of stuff, like gangbusters, games, etc. It was really, really good. And it kind of just blew up from there, right? It just goes to show that Barbara Broccoli did kind of know what she was doing at one point. We're going to scroll past a lot of this stuff because a lot of this stuff is the history of Bond, right? There are some funny jabs at Jeff Bezos and stuff like that, but we're going to get past it because I want you to see just how dumb Amazon is, because they are dumb. Really, really, really dumb. And then it says here, right? We start to get to this. So obviously these numbers were a large part of Amazon's calculations to buy MGM. They certainly didn't spend $8.5 billion for the Pink Panther. Broccoli and Wilson were said to be nervous about the sale of the nearly 100-year-old studio to the 21st century tech conglomerate, but they knew that even under new management they'd retain creative control. Amazon knew that too, but executives there, like Mike Hopkins, head of Prime Video, and Jennifer Solke, head of Amazon Studios, apparently believed they could sweet-talk the Broccoli's into expanding the brand beyond the single Bond film Eon had been putting out every 2 or 3 years. Yeah, it didn't work though. As Dr. No himself would put it, that was very foolish. Quote, we just try to make, we just try to focus on making good pictures, and it takes time. It takes a couple of years, Wilson said in an interview shortly after MGM's sale to Amazon was announced. Putting all that energy into making 10 or 20 hours of a TV show, that's a big commitment. We'd have to delegate to do that, and we've been very reluctant to delegate. It's not something we've ever wanted to do, Broccoli also went on to say. So Amazon had ideas. Sources close to the franchise say the streamer approached the Broccoli's with pitches for a TV series based on Moneypenny, the MI6 secretary who's been batting eyes at Bond since Connery days, as well as a show about Bond CIA buddy Felix Leiter. That one might have been okay. Fucking Moneypenny series. And maybe even something involving a female 007, of course. Of course. Broccoli and Wilson weren't interested, obviously. There was hope early on that Amazon, former Warner Brothers executive Courtney Valenti, the daughter of late MPAA boss Jack Valenti, who had come aboard MGM about a year after Amazon bought it, and whom Broccoli had said, always liked, basically, might have some luck loosening up the Bond IP, but not even the Barbara Whisperer, as she was called, could sway Cubby's kids. Relations grew even frostier, and after a meeting in which Solke reportedly mortified Broccoli by calling Bond content, Wilson, meanwhile, was said to be complaining about how he'd been unable to set up meetings with Amazon's top brass. Madness. Absolute madness. So neither Amazon nor Eon could be reached for comment on any of the above, but it's clear that in the 3 years since Amazon's purchased MGM and the 6 years since production wrapped on No Time to Die, it's been 6 years, wow, zero progress has been made in getting 007 back on screen. There's no script for the next Bond, no director, and most critically, no Bond. Sources say Amazon had suggested a few actors, but none the Broccoli's would sign off on. In fact, the only Bond content that's come out of Amazon is Prime's little notice game show 007 Road to a Million. Fuck. which has proved so underwhelming, not even its hosts sound like much of a fan. I actually thought, oh wow, I'm getting a James Bond film, Brian Cox recently explained, about how he accidentally accepted the gig. And then I realised it wasn't a Bond film, but a game show. Meanwhile, as the franchise sputtered and stalled, Wilson, nearly 20 years older than Broccoli, decided to retire, leaving Barbara on her own with the Amazonians. The half-siblings, their mother was Dana Natol, Cubby's second wife, couldn't be more different. She's liberal, he's conservative, her passion is storytelling, he's more into production engineering, but they had complementary skill sets and they had absolute trust and faith in each other. They didn't always agree, but they had a way of working through to a resolution that they would both stand by. They never tried to do an end run around each other. They were always in it together. So Wilson's departure was said to be a big factor in Broccoli's ultimate decision to walk away. After 30 years of Bond movies, she no longer had the stomach or stamina for the endless studio battles or the years-long Bond production marathons, certainly not on her own. There was no obvious successor, not even Wilson's son Greg, who's been working on the recent films, but who insiders say wasn't considered ready to step into his father's shoes. He must be pissed. So in any case, it all came to a head in December, a month after Broccoli and Wilson picked up the Thalberg at the Governor's Awards. That's when the Wall Street Journal published a piece detailing the chilly state of affairs between Amazon and the Broccoli's, in which Barbara is quoted as telling friends that Amazon executives were fucking idiots. Not surprisingly, those choice words did not go over well with Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. He read her quote in the Journal and got on the phone and said, "I don't care what it costs, get rid of her," is how one insider describes what happened, confirming that what Bezos ended up paying for the franchise was close to $1 billion. Wow. So Amazon has a mixed record when it comes to franchises. It spent a reported $1 billion getting a Lord of the Rings series onto its servers, only to end up with a show that nobody, not even Tolkien fans, thought was worth $1 billion. Same goes for spy thrillers. It spent $300 million on a splashy drama, Citadel, which earned... what is Citadel? I never even heard of it. Jesus, $300 million. They're just pissing money up the wall, aren't they? Oh, it goes on, guys. There's just so much crap here. It's no wonder that the news of Amazon's takeover was greeted like a death notice by Bond fans who plastered the internet with RIP 007 posts following the announcement. Even Dalton got into the act with the one-time Bond telling the British press that he was shocked and sad. Dear oh dear. Dear oh dear. And they bang on about this, Christopher Nolan thing. Christopher Nolan, this was old news. I don't understand why it reported as new news. But Christopher Nolan wanted to make a Bond film, but they wouldn't let him because he has final, cut say, which makes sense. This Moneypenny spin-off, oh my god. So dumb. So dumb. So there's not a lot, honestly, there's not a lot else to say here, to be honest. It just doesn't look good at all. I don't think this is going to be good. I don't think it's going to go very well. But it is interesting, isn't it? That was the reason. That Wall Street Journal article, that quote, "I don't care what it takes, get rid of her." Mental. Amazon wants to do a Moneypenny spin-off series. Felix Leiter spin-off series. That one could have been good. But this is just lame, man. This is lame. Super lame. Leave your thoughts down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.